Hello, I am excited to join you today for the Content Control Summit. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, generating content for difficult, impossible, boring companies, but still get SEO success out of it. My name is David Zimmerman. I own a SEO consultancy called Reliable Acorn. You might have heard me speak at different WordCamps before, maybe at the Remote Control Summit a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? Kind of lost track of time here. Anyway, this time I'd like to talk to you about something I do a lot of. I work with a lot of B2B companies. B2B companies tend to be boring. They sell widgets and other things that people don't really know about and only a few people are interested in. And generating content for them is really difficult. It's hard to keep it interesting. It's hard to think of what to write about. That's what I've had to learn over the years, and I'd like to impart some of that knowledge to you with the hope that you too could start generating content for some of your tougher clients. I'd also suggest this will be valuable to you because, frankly, I've been a little distracted lately. I just feel like my mind is drawn in several different directions at the same time. I'm worried about this and worried about that at the same. I'm overwhelmed. It's hard to be creative right now. It's hard to be inspired. And even if you have an interesting client, you might have a hard time figuring out what you're going to write for them. I hope some of the lessons I've learned in writing for difficult clients will help you, even if you're writing for an interesting client. Now, if we're going to talk about generating content for SEO, I think we first need to talk about, well, what is good content? I'm not trying to wax philosophical here. Just saying that, we talk about good SEO content, but what does that mean? Does it mean that content ranks? Well, yeah, maybe. Rank is maybe a part of that puzzle, but, I really have a hard time telling any of my clients that they rank for anything these days. Google is just so personalized, the search results. They have so gone geolocated the search results. It's really hard to objectively say anybody ranks objectively any position for anything. Rank is such a slippery metric. Besides, even if you could objectively measure rank, what if no one else thinks to search for that phrase? Rank does not mean success. Just because content ranks for something doesn't mean it's good. Maybe we want rank that generates traffic, right? Because then at least we know other people are searching for what we have to offer, what we'd like to talk about. But traffic by itself isn't a particularly effective metric. In a way, we could think of all kinds of things that could generate traffic that have nothing to do with our client or our website. So good SEO content doesn't just drive traffic either. Good SEO content accomplishes its purpose. Oh, thanks. We started with philosophy and now we're in nebulous definitions of accomplishing its purpose. Well, bear with me. What does the content do for us? Why did we produce the content? If it's a landing page, presumably a landing page is something that is really a sales page that shows the product or the service that you have, shows how amazing it is and why you'd want to buy it from us or why you'd want to hire us for these services. That's when I talk about a landing page. That's what I mean. So what is the purpose of the content on that page? Well, it's to get the sales lead, to get the sale, right? Good SEO content produces the goal. It accomplishes that sales lead, that purchase. If our content is a blog post, well, then our purposes might be a little different. It might be to inform people. It might be to help someone who isn't quite ready to buy or hire us yet. to move them down the sales funnel to be a little bit closer to buying for us. We might blog about broader topics that aren't necessarily a direct, hard to hit, this is why you should buy for us, but this is things you should consider. Or here's some information you should know as you get into starting thinking. Like a blog post in my mind is kind of helping someone move closer to the sale, but not trying to get the sale. So a good SEO blog post is a blog post that accomplishes that purpose, helps move someone closer to the sale. And that's what makes it good. Don't be distracted by rank, because no one else might be looking for that phrase. Don't be distracted by traffic, because traffic doesn't necessarily help you. You want content, or I should say good SEO content accomplishes its purpose. So what does it take to have good SEO content? Now, I'm going to stop for a moment here. We're talking about the words content, and content could mean a lot of different things. It could mean video. I don't know much about video, so I'm really not going to be talking about that today. Content could talk about imagery. I'm not a really great photographer. I really can't talk to you about imagery today. What I can talk to you about is words. And ultimately, although imagery and video might have a place in an SEO campaign, SEO content mostly is about words. And so that's the kind of content I'm going to be talking about, and that's the requirements about which I'm going to give you. So we're talking about text. And what I'd like to give you are some things that we need to do to have good SEO content that helps us accomplish its purpose. And the first thing is that content needs to be audience focused. Now, what I mean by that is, let's remember that SEO is a marketing channel. And fundamental to marketing is making sure you're speaking your customer's language. Sometimes, and this is true for me when I work with B2B clients, but it's true almost in every field, people like to use their own internal jargon. There might be a proper way to say something. Because you're an expert in your field, you want to say it that way. However, the average person who's looking for what you have to offer doesn't necessarily know to call it that yet. We would take their money if they came to us, but they might not search for the thing that we would like to call it. I'm trying to dance around this idea, but basically I'm talking about the keywords. I don't like using that word keyword because Google today is not really focused on a word per page. Google thinks in terms of topics. And so when I say keyword, people think of like the green light in Yoast. I love Yoast. SEO plugin for WordPress is great. But the green light that tells you, is your page optimized for this keyword, I feel is a little misleading because it focuses so narrowly on a particular phrase. In reality, Google is thinking topic. And that's why I'm trying to get away from this idea of keyword and say, let's think about the content of a page being focused on the audience. We should use the language they're using, not our internal jargon. It should be focused on them, and then it's helpful, right? Even though we're trying to sell them something, it should help them understand the value of the product, why they need it. It should help them to understand the value of using that product or service from our company. Help your user out. Speak their language. Use the words they're using to look for you, even if they might be technically wrong. So the first thing we need to do when it comes to good SEO content is have an audience-focused content. The next thing is that it is unique. Now, whenever I work with clients, I convince them that we need to start producing a lot of content. They say, that's going to be tough. And I say, well, it really needs to be unique as well. And they say, how unique does it have to be? I get it. It's tough to produce a lot of content. And it's really tough to produce a lot of unique content. Sometimes clients will come to me and say, well, can't we just republish this article I read somewhere else? It perfectly conveys what I want to say. No. Why would Google want to serve your site to people when you're saying the same thing someone else has done? I mean, besides the fact that you just plagiarized. Or what if we just repeat the same content and replace the city name? No, that's not unique content. Well, how unique does it have to be, David, is the natural question. And my answer typically is, if you have to ask, it's not unique enough. It's worth your time to produce unique content for your site. It would be better to be slower and produce fewer pieces of content if it were unique than it would be produce a lot of content that is not unique. So, good SEO content is focused on the audience, it's unique, and now it's also evergreen. You know, here we are in the middle of this pandemic, and I am kind of tired of seeing articles about COVID-19. How COVID-19 affects this business. What COVID-19 is doing for these customers. How COVID-19 is blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. It's on all of our minds. It's hard to escape it, and it feels like it's being serviced to talk about it. However, I say this, fingers crossed, this will pass, hopefully sooner than later. And that content's going to be all irrelevant. It would be better if the content was evergreen, meaning it's still helpful to people a year from now, 2 years from now. You know, rather than write an article about how to deal with COVID-19 in your industry, what if you wrote about how to deal with your industry in a slow time? Because that's the real problem, right? Things are slow. And frankly, every business has a slow season. So now if you write an article that's about how to deal with things during the slow season, now it's going to be relevant today during the pandemic, but also next year when the slow season hits them again. And the year after that when the slow season hits them again. Because typically everybody has a slow season. So now you've taken relevant content that's unique, but it's evergreen. The other thing people need to know to have good quality SEO content, besides that it's speaking to our audience, it's unique, it's evergreen, it should be long. Now again, clients will say, oh my goodness, David, how long does it have to be? Like, I don't have time to write a lot of content. Well, I hate to give a number. I really hate to give a number. Because if I give a number, typically people say, oh, well, as long as I've done 401 words, I've fulfilled it. The answer is not a number of words. The answer is it should be complete. It should talk about the subject in enough depth to make it useful and helpful and useful to the audience, right? That's what we're looking for. The fact is, if I had to give you a number, I'd say over 1,000 words. Now, a lot of clients will balk at that. Oh my goodness, 1,000 words? How am I going to write 1,000 words on this? Well, the fact is, it's hard to baloney your way through 1,000 words. Anybody can write 500 words on something, and you might not end up saying anything. But if you have to write 1,000 words, you're going to actually have to think about it and put some time and thought and effort into it. By doing that, it's going to be not only helpful to your audience, it's only going to be unique, and will probably be pretty evergreen because it's going to be very comprehensive. So longer is better. But there's another reason why long content is better, and that has to do with something called the long tail. Now, if you listened to me talk at the Remote Control Summit, you might have heard this. It's worth repeating because this is pretty fundamental when it comes to producing content for the web, especially good SEO content. Here's a nice little graph. The bottom part of this graph is a chart describing different phrases, maybe we'd say keywords that are very broad to very specific. That's what the x-axis is, how specific a phrase is. However, the y-axis, the up and down, reflects how many people are searching for a phrase. So you can see, and this kind of makes sense if you think about it, if it's a very, very broad phrase, a lot of people search for that. It's a very specific phrase, not many people search for that. Now, when I gave this presentation in Asheville, at WordCamp Asheville last year, there was a guy who had a limousine service. Hope he's doing well. We talked about it in terms of his industry. I thought it was a great example. So there's a lot of people who search for limos. Of all the people searching for limo, some of them would like to hire a limo. Some of them would like to rent a limo. Some of them would like to buy a limo. But the fact that the word limo is pretty broad means that a lot of people search, but there's a lot of different intents behind that search. Now, some people search for hire a limo. A lot less people search for that than the word limo, because it's more specific than limo. We can make it even more specific by saying, hire a limo in Asheville, North Carolina. A lot less people search for that because it's very specific. And a lot less people search for, I need a limo to take me to the airport in Asheville, North Carolina at midnight on Wednesday. Not many people search for that phrase because it's very specific. However, the phenomenon of the long tail says the number of people searching for the broadest phrase is fewer than the number of people searching for all the possible very specific phrases out there. In other words, yeah, a lot of people search for limo, but a lot more people search for all the possible many combinations of the word limo related to a service ad infinitum than the word limo. So when it comes to SEO content, if we were to, quote, optimize for the word limo, we might get a lot of traffic, but we're going to get a lot more traffic if we can come up with all the many infinite number of phrases someone might search for to want to hire a limo in Asheville, North Carolina. There's a lot more opportunity there than in the word limo. So good SEO content considers how many, the number of keywords that someone could search for to find a service or a product that you sell is so great. We need to account for that. And that's why you have to have a lot of content, because you're going to accidentally rank for and get traffic for the phrases that are so infinite you could never predict them. Here's where it gets interesting. Now, again, we have a continuum between very broad and very specific phrases. However, this time we're measuring it against the conversion rate. For a very broad phrase, very few people convert on that phrase. Limo. Not a lot of people are going to sign up for a limo service because some of those people are not looking to hire a limo. They're looking to buy a limo, or they're looking at options in limos, or they're classic car aficionados looking for different types of old limos. There's any number of things they could be searching for. So that phrase, even though there might be a lot of people searching, there's not a lot of conversions. If we hire a limo, okay, more specific, conversion rate increased. If we hire a limo in Asheville, North Carolina, now we're getting more conversions because it's getting closer to what we do. Now, if someone searches for, I need to hire a limo to take me to the airport on Wednesday night at midnight in Asheville, North Carolina, not a lot of people search for that. We've established that already. But if we're the only page on the internet that gets served in response to that query, 100% conversion rate. We are going to get that customer. How do we know to optimize for that phrase? We don't. But because we've produced long content, we might have accidentally optimized for that phrase. And that's what really is cool about the long tail, is that we can hit this sweet spot of, okay, yeah, a lot of people search for limo, but not a lot of people convert. But if we can hit this sweet spot of hire a limo in Asheville, North Carolina, and more specific phrases, we'll find that the possible number of conversions we could get out of that content are going to be much greater. That's why we need long amount of content, so we can be found for phrases that we can't even predict someone might search for. And long content helps us do what? It helps us accomplish the purpose, because it not only gets us found, gets us the traffic, but then it gets us that customer. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten, because we have such a large amount of content, we accidentally rank and get traffic for phrases we never would have thought would happen. That's why long content's important. That's why when a client says, well, how long does it have to be? The answer is complete. It needs to be as long enough to be complete. Don't think in terms of word count. Think in terms of completeness on the topic. But it needs to be scannable. So when I say we have to have a lot of content on our page for good SEO, I'm not saying just a whole large run of content of text. Nobody's got time to read that. No one wants to read it. That's really not how people interact with websites. They scan websites. So break up your content. Break up your content into sub-headlines. One of my favorite little tricks is to ask a question in a sub-headline and answer the question in the following paragraph. Use bulleted lists. People love bulleted lists on web pages because it really succinctly tells you exactly what you need to see. Break it up with images. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about images, but images interspersed in a page can reiterate to your viewer what your page is talking about. Break it up. You need a lot of words on the page so you can get found by people searching for long tail searches, and those will be converting searches. But you don't just need a wall of text to be found in Google. Mix it up. Make it easy and user-friendly. Scannable is important. And ultimately, good SEO content needs to accomplish its purpose. Sometimes when we write content, we're afraid of making the hard sale. We're afraid of saying, and that's why you should purchase it from us today, and here's how. Now, if it's a landing page, and like I said before, what I mean by landing page is a direct hard sell page. This is the service we offer. This is why you should do it from us. Here's how you do it. Make it explicit. Another way of saying this is add a call to action on your page. You've convinced someone because you've got content that speaks to their customer, speaks the customer's language. It's unique. It's evergreen. It's long and scannable. Help it to accomplish its purpose by giving the reader, the viewer of the page, something to do with the fact that they now know that you're their solution that they need. If it's a blog post, what's the purpose? Make the call to action. A blog post should probably be more helpful and altruistic in tone, but it's totally okay, I think, to add a call to action at the end and here's how you can, by the way, do this with us. Don't make that the focus of the blog post, but at the end of a blog post, make the sale. Ask for the sale. I think that's totally legit. Because, again, good SEO content isn't just about rank. It's not just about traffic. It's about accomplishing the purpose of it being on your website. David, I can hear you saying this. David, this is impossible. How can I do all of this? My content is boring. My industry puts people to sleep. My clients are difficult. They never approve anything. How can I get all these things done? How can I get content that's speaking my audience's language, that's unique, that's evergreen, that's long, but I give up. How are you going to do this? I get it. I've been there before. And I'd like to show you how I've overcome those problems in the past. Let's start by talking about boring clients. Did I tell you that I work with some pretty boring clients? You know, they sell widgets and boring stuff that only most few people even know about. How do you generate content for boring clients? Well, here's a couple things I like to do. First, I go to social media. You know, I know what a lot of us do when it comes to social media marketing strategy is we just publish content after content, another post, another post, another post. I'll admit I'm guilty. I do that too. Another post, another post. But if you take time to listen to your social media channels, you might find people asking questions about your industry, about your topic. Fact is, if one person's asking, other people probably want to know too. Wouldn't it be great if your website had the answer to that question? Answer the question. Bonus points. Take your social media account and say, hey, I noticed you were asking this question. I thought I'd answer it for you, wrote it up in an article for you. Now, next time someone asks that question, hey, that's a great question. We've already answered it. Here's the article. That is a social media strategy, but it's also a great SEO content strategy because you're getting content on your site that answers questions that real people are asking. Use social media to listen in your industry, and I think you're going to find some great topics even for a boring industry. Boring industries have bored sales teams. They're bored because they have to answer the same questions over and over and over again. Be the savior of your sales team. Ask them, what are the questions everybody's always asking you? What are the biggest hurdles people are hesitant to purchase from us about? What can I do to put content on the website that will help you close the sale? I think your sales team will be very excited to help you with this. Now, their job is easier. Maybe you're delivering leads because the content accomplishes the purpose. It answers the question and then makes people want to fill out the sales form, the lead form. And now the sales team's getting leads that are ready to go because you've already answered the questions that they had on the website. Sales team gets a question, they send a link to the person. Here, we've already answered this question. I hope this article helps you out. Wow, what a great partnership between content and the sales team. I guarantee your sales team, even in the most boring industry, has a bunch of great topics for you to write about. Phone calls. I don't mean to scare you, but the fact is most of the phone numbers you call off the internet are trackable phone numbers. And many of them are recording your call. I always set up phone call tracking for all my clients because I want to know, is my marketing efforts accomplishing its purpose by producing phone calls? Sometimes I listen to those phone calls and I find out great ideas about which I can write for the blog. I had a buddy who did the same thing. It wasn't a boring industry, but there's only so much you can write about when it comes to pools. And in a day of frustration of trying to figure out what on earth we're going to write about pools this week, he found himself listening to phone calls and realized people keep asking about this one thing. I honestly forget what the one thing was, but he got on the phone with his contact at the company and said, hey, by the way, what is this one thing? And he said, yeah, that's a service that we don't really promote very much. You realize people are asking for the service. They are? Yes, they really want that service. So they produced a landing page, talked about the service. Guess what? That landing page accomplished a lot of purposes for that client. It transformed their business because they were listening to phone calls and realized they had a service they weren't promoting because they didn't know how many people wanted it. producing the content on their site, addressing the questions people are asking that was unique, and Evergreen became the key to transforming this business. It all started from listening in on phone calls. Hey, you don't have a phone call tracking system? Put a pad of paper next to the phone and have the receptionist write down the questions people ask. That's cheap. That's easy. Use the phone to get up new ideas for content. But I think my favorite way to get new topics for boring industries is simply going to Google. Have you ever done a search on Google and noticed that Google's trying to answer the question for you while you type it? Maybe you've noticed that they'll even list a whole bunch of topics underneath you as you type into the search bar. This is called Google Autosuggest. It's a feature. Do you know where Google's getting the auto-suggested answers? It's what other people are asking about that topic. Yes, Google is telling you what people are typing into Google for any given topic. Maybe we should make note of that because we should probably write about those topics as we relate them to our industry. Once you do a search, have you noticed that sometimes in the middle of the search results, there'll be a people also ask section with questions and answers? Do you know where they're getting that? Web pages that ask and answer a question. Did it tell you how important it was to break up your content into subheadlines? Do you remember me mentioning that if you ask a question as a subheadline and answer it in the following paragraph, it's a good idea? That's why. You might find your company's answer in the search results for the people also ask questions. But even if you don't, you'll at least get a whole bunch of great questions to ask and answer on your website. And maybe you have looked at the bottom of the search result page and seen the related searches. That's a great rabbit trail to go down to really understand other things people are looking for as they search Google that might be related to your business. Sometimes I can get trapped down that rabbit hole for hours looking at new topics related to my clients' businesses, come up with just more and more new pieces of content for my clients. Google is a treasure trove of ideas. I hope you can tap into them. Well, sometimes clients are not boring, they're just difficult. The proverbial example of this is a lawyer. Like a lawyer's job is to tell you no. And if you've ever tried to write content for a lawyer, they're never going to allow you to write anything. Everything you write for them is going to be inappropriate or inaccurate in some way, and they're never going to allow you to publish it. How can you produce content for people like that, whether they're a lawyer or not, who refuse to let you publish anything? No wonder people write cutesy titles and write duplicate content. They're tired and they just need to produce something. However, I think you can even write for a difficult client. And here's my secret. I interview them. I simply get on the phone with someone for 15 minutes and interview them on a particular topic. I have that phone call transcribed. I use a service I like called SpeechPad, but they'll transcribe the phone call for me, and I can give that transcript of the interview to a writer. And usually a writer can read that transcript and write 2, maybe 3 articles from it, and each of those will be unique. I can give the same transcript to another writer who can then write maybe 2 or 3 articles from that. In fact, sometimes I can give the same interview to several writers and keep producing more and more content. Each one is unique because each writer is going to see something a little different in that interview. Then I give the articles completed back to the clients and say, here, this is an article I'd like to publish on your website. If they hesitate, I remind them that this is literally based on the interview they gave me. These are the words they used. and it's really hard to argue against yourself. Even the best lawyer can't do that. Interview your difficult clients. Use their own words against them so they can then benefit from good SEO content on their site. And second, the other way to unlock a difficult client is to remember that success breeds success. We as SEOs need a lot of good content on our clients' sites. Sometimes we produce so much content there becomes a backlog and we're waiting for 10, 20 pieces of content to be approved and nothing's getting approved. Instead, I'd recommend for the most difficult clients, give them one piece at a time. Yes, it might take weeks for them to approve that one piece. But once you get that one piece, you can show them not only did that page rank, but did that piece produce traffic. But most importantly, that piece helped their business by accomplishing its purpose. And once you have them there, they'll be hooked. And the next thing they'll ask you is, how do we do more? Well, guess what? We can do more just like that. And now you've finally unlocked the secret to getting difficult clients to move. Once they see a little success, they're going to want a little more. And now you'll have greased the wheels, and eventually they're going to be asking for more content than you can even produce. Promise. So today I hope you're leaving with a new sense that even the most difficult, boring industries can produce good, unique content. And that unique content can help their SEO campaigns. I hope I've given you some new strategies that you can take to implement to overcome even the most boring or difficult client. And I hope I've given you some good criteria so that you can know how to produce the best content for them. Now, if you'd like to learn a little more, I've just recently been developing the SEO game plan. Check it out for me, please. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the SEOgameplan.com. This goes into a lot more depth than just how to produce content for difficult clients. It goes through the process, for instance, of keyword research to understand how your customers might be searching for you. It goes into the more technical aspects of SEO to make sure that Google can even read your site when you have content there. It talks about promotional aspects like how do you get other websites to talk about your website and all the important pieces of SEO. So I hope you can join me there. Sign up for a free account and get access to the keyword research process, which really is the hinge of the whole thing. But I really appreciate your time today. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of not just this talk, but the other talks in today's session. I'm going to go over Facebook right now and be there for some live Q&A. So please bring your questions. If you have a particularly difficult industry, let's brainstorm a little bit and see if we can think of some new topics about which we can write for your industry. Or even just need some cheering up to say, I think you can do it. You can let me cheer you up a little bit. But thank you, and I hope to see you soon.